Zelete, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. In the history of global politics, there are moments that completely shatter the old rules of how the world works. For over a century, the nations of West Africa were told, directly or indirectly, that they could not survive without the permission, the military, and the political backing of their former colonial masters. We were taught to believe that Paris held all the cards, that the almighty France could decide who rules, who falls, and how an entire continent runs its affairs. But the world is changing at a speed that has left the old powers in absolute shock. What we are witnessing right now in the Sahel is a total unapologetic rewriting of the power balance. Burkina Faso, a country that the Western media loves to label as one of the poorest on the earth. This is something that many thought was completely impossible. The government of Captain Ibrahim Traore are all in all looked at the entire machinery of the French state and issued a strict, non-negotiable ultimatum. Pack up your bags, shut your operations, and get out of our country. Within 7 days, every single French diplomat, every single piece of embassy staff, and the entire former presence of the French state in Ouagadougou has been dismantled and sent back to Paris. The French embassy is officially closed. Think about the sheer weight of what this means. This is not a minor diplomatic disagreement. This is not a temporary downgrade where two countries agreed to sit down at a round table and review their bilateral agreements over coffee. This is a complete systematic breakdown of a neo-colonial structure that has dictated life in West Africa for more than 130 years. For decades, the invisible hand of Paris operated across Francophone countries with absolute immunity, taking whatever it wanted and breaking anyone who stood in the way. Today, they are facing the most embarrassing geopolitical defeat they have ever experienced on the African continent. The reaction from Paris tells you everything you need to know about who is calling the shots now. When the deadline hit, the French Foreign Ministry couldn't even come up with an original response. They were so shaken by the move that they simply took Burkina Faso's playbook, photocopied it, and handed the exact same 7-day eviction notice to the Burkinabe charged the affair in France. When the global powerhouse resort to copying the exact format and timetable of an African nation because it has no real diplomatic counter-move, the illusion of colonial supremacy is officially dead. The institutional relationship as we knew it is over. To fully understand how we arrived at this historic moment, we have to look past the immediate headlines. This didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen overnight. This is the final cord being cut after years of deliberate, calculated steps taken by the government of our all-in-all Captain Ibrahim Traore since he took power in September 2022. From day one, Burkina Faso made it clear that it was charting a path towards a fiercely independent foreign policy. Step 1 happened in early 2023, when the government looked at the thousands of French troops stationed on its soil under the guise of security and tore up the long-standing military agreements. They gave those foreign soldiers 30 days to pack up and leave. Many experts warned that Burkina Faso would collapse without them, but the government stood firm and the troops left. Step 2 followed shortly after when the government demanded the removal of the French ambassador himself, alongside the French defense attaché and his entire team, over direct allegation of subversive activities against the state. By 2024, 3 more French diplomats were declared persona non grata and given just 48 hours to cross the border. Alongside this diplomatic cleanup, the government systematically suspended prominent French media outlets from broadcasting inside the country, stopping the spread of external propaganda designed to cause panic. So when the embassy was finally forced to close the doors in June 2026, it wasn't a sudden shock. It was the logical conclusion of a nation methodically reclaiming its house, room by room. The final trigger for this complete break revealed exactly how the geopolitical game is played. Just days before the official announcement, a French member of the European Parliament stood up in Brussels and launched a heavy attack against Burkina Faso, calling its security record a failure and pushing through a resolution to condemn the government. In the world of all diplomacy, an African nation was expected to bow its head and take the criticism and beg for international approval. Instead, Burkina Faso responded, cutting the final diplomatic thread. In geopolitics, there is no such thing as a coincidence. When a foreign body tries to use international platforms to attack your sovereignty, and days later their embassy is permanently shut down, it sends a clear message to the rest of the world. The era of lecturing Africa is officially over. But what makes this move even more powerful is the discipline and maturity shown by the Burkinabe state. The government drew a sharp, clear line between the French state and the French people. The official statement from Ouagadougou made it clear that this battle is strictly institutional. It does not target the historic, cultural, or human ties between ordinary citizens. The government explicitly called on its people to show responsibility toward the more than 2,000 French nationals living inside Burkina Faso, guaranteeing their protection under international law. While their consular services will now have to be routed through third-party countries, the safety of ordinary people remains secured. This is statecraft at its highest level, making a hard revolutionary choice against a foreign empire while maintaining total discipline on the streets. And we cannot talk about this break without talking about the money, because economics is the real battlefield of colonial control. As of 2022, Burkina Faso was home to nearly 60 subsidiaries of French corporations. For generations, these businesses didn't succeed just because they were more competitive. They succeeded because they had the full crushing weight of the French embassy, the French ambassador, and the French intelligence backing them up to secure contracts and monopolize resources. Now that diplomatic umbrella has vanished. While these companies have been forced out, they no longer have an unfair advantage. For the first time in history, the playing field is completely leveled. Into this new open space are stepping global competitors from Russia, China, Turkey, and the Gulf states, actors who have been waiting for years to do genuine mutual business in region rich with gold and strategic minerals, a region that France once treated as its personal backyard. But the story doesn't end with France leaving. In fact, the day the French diplomats packed their bags was the exact same day that the future of the region was laid out for everyone to see. Speaking on the second anniversary of Confederation of the Alliance of Sahel States, the AES, all in all, Captain Ibrahim Traoré addressed the people of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, not just as a national leader, but as a chairman of a unified regional bloc. He was completely blunt about the reality on the ground. He warned the population that the AES is currently locked in an economic and media war of unprecedented scale. The heavy sanctions coming out of Western capitals, the negative press, and the international campaigns to isolate the AES are not random. They are a coordinated attempt to do what the West has always done to African revolutions, to starve them out, cause internal division, and stop economic salvation before it can take root. But the response from the Sahel has been a flat refusal to surrender. Instead of breaking under the pressure, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have spent the last 2 years moving closer together. They didn't just write a treaty on a piece of paper. They built operational military cooperation on the front lines, created a joint anti-terror force, launched a common AES passport that is already in circulation, and executed a coordinated historic exit from ECOWAS that the regional bloc simply had to accept. Traoré made it clear to the world that this second anniversary is not a victory lap. It is not an end point where people sit back and celebrate. It is the absolute beginning of a new salvation in the Sahel. And to guide this new era, he had laid out 7 non-negotiable priorities that will fill the vacuum left behind by the colonial powers. Priority number 1 is collective self-defense. The days of relying on foreign armies to guide African borders are gone. The 3 nations will demand their territory together, using their own unified forces. Priority number 2 and 3 are economic integration and rapid industrialization, turning away from the old system of shipping raw wealth overseas and focusing on building factories at home. Priority number 4 is energy and food sovereignty, ensuring the Sahel can feed its own people and power its own industries without begging for foreign aid, no IMF. Priority number 5 is the absolute core of this entire struggle, the local transformation of natural resources. The soil of the AES holds some of the most valuable resources on the face of the earth. Massive deposits of gold, uranium, manganese, oil, and gas. For over 100 years, that wealth moved in a straight, one-way pipeline straight out of Africa. Uranium left the mines of Niger to light up the cities, factories, and homes of France and Europe, while the African villages right next to those very mines were left sitting in pitch darkness. God left Mali and Burkina Faso in its rawest form, leaving nothing behind but environmental destruction and poverty. The AES blueprint is a direct declaration of war against the economic model. The goal now is to refine the gold, process the uranium, and manufacture the goods inside the Sahel. It means empowering the youth of the region, building local infrastructure, and ensuring that the wealth under the soil benefits the people living on top of it first. The remaining priorities focus on free movement of people and goods across the Confederation and the pooling of scientific, technological, and educational capacity. The AES is playing a highly sophisticated diplomatic game. Traoré explicitly stated that this confederation was not formed to antagonize any foreign nation or national body. It is a sovereign choice, freely made by 3 independent states to protect their territory and build a fairer society. Even as they walk away from the political restrictions of ECOWAS, they are keeping the doors open for high-level consultations to ensure that ordinary West Africans can still travel and trade across the borders. The AES is not building a wall around itself. It is negotiating the terms of engagement from a position of absolute strength. We are seeing a massive regional shift. Burkina Faso is not standing alone in this fight. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are moving as a single unit. They pushed the French military out together, they left ECOWAS together, and just this month, they began their official coordinated withdrawal from the International Criminal Court. The pattern is undeniable. When one capital takes a step, the other two are right behind them. The pattern is undeniable. When one capital takes a step, the other two are right behind them.